All right, good morning. Happy Saturday. I posted the wrong channel? Or is that not updating? Know if that is my Discord window that was weird. I feel like I didn't see my own message there. Maybe I'm behind time. I don't know if that's the Discord window or if that's the OBS preview. Try to keep an eye on that. See if if it's not updating on the Discord chat down there. Okay, let's get a couple of these things shuffled around. I noticed just now, in fact, on Twitch. I don't think I saw this when it happened live, so my apologies. I don't know if this person will see it, but I did get a follow a couple of days ago on Twitch by somebody named Not DB Cooper. So thanks for the follow, friend. Sorry, I didn't notice that live when it happened. Good morning to C. Grover. 9 days ago, so that would have been on a Thursday anyway, potentially, though, so I don't know if I would have been streaming. Let's see here. Okay, a few more things I need to shuffle around. I think this one can go back there, and this preview doesn't need to be on. It's over here. Can resize a few of these. Last one, there it is. Okay, yeah, we got that going. Those were good there. Okay. Alrighty, good morning. For anybody that might be new or catching this in the future on the video, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy. I get up in Discord. We're working on CircuitPython stuff. In particular, we are pretty much just picking up where I left off last night on the outlined label, which I can show you on the camera here after I restart it when it crashes. And then focus it. So I am working on a class that makes these outlined labels, the red outline that goes around all of the letters here. That's basically what we're working on. If anybody that is happen to see this has questions about it, feel free to ask in the chat. I'm happy to dive more into any particular part of it, but for now I'm pretty much just jumping in where I left off, which is we need to fix the paddings. In particular, I think I want to do two specific things. I think that I want to have it be when you create the outlined label, if you do not provide padding values, it will choose some default padding values based on the outline size that was selected. And then you'll be good to go. You'll be guaranteed to always have enough padding to fit the outline that you have selected. How's it going, Tyeth? Happy Saturday. Is that outline a requested feature? Also, does drop shadow exist? Offset on the outline and layered behind. Offset on the outline and layered behind. I'm not sure that I fully understand the last part there. In terms of a drop shadow, I bet that you could achieve a drop shadow looking effect by using a different what I have called stamp source inside of here. My stamp source in this code is essentially a square that is this formula right here, outline size times 2 plus 1. So if the outline size is 1, then the stamp source is a 3x3 square. If the outline size is 2, then the stamp source is a 5x5 square. and it will just go on using that formula upwards from there. And the code as it's written right now, it will always be a square. But I suspect if you were to not use a full square, so yeah, let's just, it's awfully orange. Let's maybe do something a little different. Really gonna make a super duper small one just to make it even simpler, hopefully. So what we are using by default with an outline size of 1 right now is a 3x3 square. Where's the pencil? Should oh, yeah, okay. So I did 9, but I really probably should have done 3x3 instead of 9x9. What I'm going to do is just make my brush be bigger so that it will work. So right now, if we imagine this is our 3x3 bitmap, we are using a stamp source that's completely filled in. If you instead, I don't know how to erase with 100% opacity, so I guess I'll just click a bunch, but if instead you used a stamp source like this-ish, I think you would get a drop shadow. You would end up with the outline being only on the bottom right of the text, which would make it look kind of like light was coming from the top left. Good morning, DJ Devin. Yeah, no worries. Not a problem at all. I'm pretty much always going to be happy to explore stuff like that. Yeah, so I think ultimately you can gain a lot of interesting effects by using different stamp sources. Right now, it's just the tip of the iceberg with the square. You could also use a bigger stamp source. It's kind of hard to think about it as a 3x3, but if you imagine like a 9x9 or a 12x12 or something like that stamp source, you could start to imagine like rounded corners as well, which would give your outline a more like kind of bubbly outline instead of hard edges. And so the core of our algorithm is effectively just taking this stamp source and stamping it on every pixel that matches the input color, which in our case is the foreground color of the text. So we just scan through the whole bitmap. Anytime we run across the color that we're looking for, we stamp our stamp source on top of it centered. So the center pixel there, we would be looking at in the original image, and then we would stamp our 3x3 in the center on top of it there. And then we just go through and do every single pixel just like that. Old school mindset was to duplicate text layer behind the shadow color and offset. Yeah, so DJ Devin did it like that as well. DJ Devin's got a repo out on GitHub with some nice text effects that take a very similar approach, if I understand correctly, is basically making multiple labels, offsetting by a little bit each one, and then layering them up either on top of or behind. Which can do some things that this can't do. One of the things we can't do is like multicolored borders with this process so easily. I guess maybe you could make a more complex stamp source, but there's still going to be patterns you couldn't really achieve with this methodology versus the other one. So I think so. Yeah, the two things I want to do. The first one is if you do not provide the padding, then you're going to get default padding that will fit your outline size. The second thing is, I think I want to even go so far as to say if you do supply padding, but your padding is too small to fit your outline size, So I was all ready to say I think it should raise an exception, but in the moment I started thinking more about it, I don't know if it should. I mean, my gut instinct is it should raise an exception. I think if you give it padding, but the padding is too small to fit the outline, then I think the outlined label should tell you, hey, these parameters don't work because we can't fit the entire outline. We do have one question to decide is like, what do we consider too small? Do we consider it too small if there's no blue pixel underneath this or on the right side of this? Or do we only consider it too small if we have actually started cutting off red pixels somewhere? And when I say blue and red, I mean obviously in this example, the thing will let you choose whatever colors you want. So not like it's always that. And I think that I lean towards if we are cutting off any red, then we are too small. Yeah, I think so. So in the current one, we actually have, it looks to me, just eyeballing it, like we have maybe 1 pixel we could cut off on the top. But we're pretty much touching every other edge at this size. But we're also at outline size, I think, 3 right now. Actually, we do have a pixel on the right. We do have a pixel on the top. I'm actually sure about the bottom. I'm going to change the colors up a bit to make it easier to see, hopefully. Instead of blue, let's do yellow. Quadruple, yeah, because it has four labels and then effectively 4 bitmaps. How does the user know what's valid, assuming it's a dynamic value? Probably unlikely, but imagine scaling text for a UI. Does it make more sense to just floor it or whatever? How does the user know what's valid? So the exception that the exception that gets raised would tell you. It would tell you, hey, padding right was too small. So that would be your way to know to make it bigger. An outline smaller than a transparent font may be desirable. Outline smaller than a transparent font? Not sure I understand. Outline smaller than a transparent font. So like, I'm guessing then instead of black here, we would have transparent, so you'd be able to see the background through. The outline smaller than that, though. Smaller than the transparent font. Yeah, five labels, in fact, not times 4, but times 5. Plus 4 it would be, not times 4. I mean, does it raise an exception? I guess let's say maybe we go more on the loose side. What if it doesn't? I don't know what blit does off the top of my head. Does blit raise an exception if we get too close? So what if we crank this up like even higher? What is this? Outline size 3. Let's go to like 7. Should be bigger than our box at that point. Quite a bit, I think. Is that only at the end here? Oh. Oh, right. So, yeah, at this point, the entire... Wait, what? Where did our red go? So I was gonna say at this point, oh, it did. It did it? Is there an exception back there? You know, we have those try catches. I wonder if I wonder if it does make an exception, but we caught it. So 4 doesn't crash. Well, it didn't crash though. Now we're connected, so we'll be able to see the output. Okay. Yeah. What does it say? Value error, x must be 0 to 258. So this was at 91. We must have just caught that. Because we catch value errors. So this is where this is a bit tricky too. We don't really want this where the text is transparent and only the outline appears. In that case, the outline would need to be the same size as the transparent text. So I don't think that this technique will ever really let us make an outline that is the same size exactly. The outline that this can create will always be at a minimum 1 pixel bigger all the way around. So it can't be inside only, if that makes any sense. It has to be at least 1 pixel bigger all the way around. With this technique, there's, I'm sure, a different technique that could like find edges or something instead of dilate. But you could, with this as it is now, you could make your outline 1 pixel, you know, therefore making it 1 pixel bigger than your text, and then you could, probably with a little bit of trickery on the palette, I don't know if it's like publicly exposed in the bitmap label to do it this way, but you could set the make transparent on your palette for your foreground color. That would leave you with transparent letters that have a 1 pixel outline around them of whatever color you had set that to. Yeah, we can't just catch these and not do anything about it, I think. We need to come up with a better way to catch them, whoops, the first time they occur, essentially. Was there some attribute missing error earlier in the output? I think the value, oh. Well, so this one there is now. This is coming back because I got rid of this. There was this value error. There was this before. Well, okay, so yeah, this one before, which is actually the same error that we're now actually getting the exception all the way up. This is effectively, I'll point you towards yesterday's stream if you didn't catch it, because I was further into the weeds on this, but the hopefully quick version is that the first time this gets called, it gets called from the bitmap label constructor, which is our parent. So inside of init in the parent class, bitmap label, it calls reset text. Reset text ultimately ends up calling add outline. The problem is that we're still inside the bitmap label constructor. We have not done any of the extra special stuff that is specific to the outlined label. So like we're not ready yet. We haven't actually set up the stuff we need in order to be able to add our outline because we're still in the parent constructor. Once we get done with the parent constructor, then we set up all the stuff we need. And at the end of that, once we're done setting up all the stuff we need, then we reset the text again, which means this time all of our stuff is in place. We are able to successfully add the outline. The way that I got around that yesterday was catch the exception and print it and do nothing else. but we're also hiding another exception, which we don't really want. Can we? No, let's try. Well, I tried if stamp source as well, and that didn't work. So I guess has adder. Try this. If self has a stamp source, then do this stuff. So that should make it not happen the first time. We're no longer catching the value error, so we should still see the value error if our thing is too big. So I think what I'm going to do actually is, I think we should catch the value error and basically just change the message that it says to be more helpful in the context of we're gonna print the original one, and then we're gonna make a new one that says padding must be big enough to fit outline size all the way around the text. Try using either larger padding sizes or smaller outline size. This way we put the ball in the programmer's control, right? Like instead of just raising the exception at the initialization step, we can tell them, hey, this is the problem. You have two choices. Either make your outline smaller or make your padding bigger. And this is only when the user has supplied padding. Because remember, if they don't supply the padding, then we're going to default to one that's big enough. So this is only if they have explicitly set padding that is too small. Where did our print of the first exception? I guess it just got scrolled, maybe? Yeah. Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. USA was intentionally done to show the four labels and how they offset. I don't think it's cheaty. I don't know. You can't do that on Arduino since the last time I used it because the background color was always required. So having the text without the background color itself was what really sold me using CircuitPython full-time instead of Arduino. Nice. Yeah, I never got too far into Arduino, truthfully. I tinkered with it a tiny little bit, but it was it was not a fun enough version of programming to make me want to do it, since I also program for a living. Arduino feels and felt too similar to work programming. CircuitPython, I don't really know how to explain it all the way, but it's just a more fun thing to program than Arduino. The things that go wrong typically are less frustrating. The things that you have to troubleshoot, for me, in my experience only, is what I can attest to, has been typically less frustrating to troubleshoot than Arduino. Arduino feels a lot more like work. but can also run on a much smaller computer, so trade-offs everywhere, obviously. Display speed kills me on CircuitPy. LVGL, yeah, LVGL would be awesome. I definitely hope / wish for the day that we get bindings to that. That will be awesome. I need to heavily increase my familiarity with C code if I want to have any attempt at being able to do that myself. Okay, yeah, so we get that exception, and at this point we can either do one or the other. What happens if we do currently not provide these? We probably get the same error. Do naive questions. Is there a place I could see the in progress code? B, I was thinking that many effect adders, e.g. CSS, just clip the effect boundaries instead of runtime failing. Why did you end up deciding that rather than clip? Basically, it's path of least resistance because it's what the underlying function that I'm relying on pretty much entirely does. If the underlying function that I was relying on entirely did the clipping itself, then the outlined label would just go with that. So I would say I'm more so not making the conscious choice of exception versus not exception, but instead I'm making the conscious choice of implement the logic to do the clipping myself or not, and I'm choosing the easier road currently, or I'm thinking of choosing the easier road currently of not implementing it myself and just relying on it. That's for question B. For question A, see the in progress code. Not exactly, but kind of. I pushed it to a branch yesterday, so the place where you can see the closest thing to what I have is in my fork of display text, and it's on a branch called, I don't know the name of the branch. It's called, one moment. Outlined label. Pretty descriptive name. I like it. Unfortunately, I do have a lot of branches, so you could either search or find it there. So outlined label, this, I can link it. This has the most up-to-date code that is available anywhere easily accessible to a person who is not me. And I don't think the CodePy is there right now. But if you want it, I can drop it in gist. Be warned, it is very much proof of concept-y and has massive chunks of code that are commented out, some of which contain functions that are no longer to be anymore. So definitely not like release quality by a long shot, but I am happy to pop it somewhere. Share it anyway. Trade-off is worth making for pretty GUI. Gem into await version of CPY LVGL9. The bindings will be brushed up for MPY, and no doubt Adafruit will be looking. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, what did we do? We took those off, and what did it do? I think it still failed the same way, or what? What did it do? Yeah, still failed the same way. Because the defaults are currently, I think, zeros. I think. I don't know. Here. Base. They are. We need to change that, I think, actually. I think we want ours to default to none because we want some distinction between none and 0. So we just copy those, or what did I just end up? Back to question B from a minute ago, I do think it would be pretty nice in the core inside a blit if we did do that. I know that some of the other bitmap tools functions do automatic clipping, like I'm pretty sure draw circle does automatic clipping, so if you place your circle on the edge of the display, it will not give you an exception, instead it will give you a partial circle. So there, if my recollection of that is correct, which it may not be, but I think it is, then there is precedent for the clipping instead of the exception, in which case I think it would also be nice to have that inside a blit, which is something that could be added there, and then if it were added there, outline label would just instantly get the benefit of it as well. It would definitely be really convenient from the developer's perspective, I will say. So we basically want to say if those are none, then we're going to use our default values. The weird thing is our default values are like kind of weird. And it really pretty heavily depends on the outline size. So really what we're going to be doing is basically saying if those are none, then we want to set it to the outline size plus something. The thing is, I think that something is going to be different for every side, maybe. So let's just start them, I guess. Padding top, if that is none, we're going to set it to... let's just say this one will be outline size. Let's start on 0, I think, because that's the size that's the side that has the most space already, I'm pretty sure. Padding bottom, if that's none, we're gonna set it to have 4 there. So I guess let's say outline size. I don't know if I need all 4. I think we were on size 2 maybe when we did that. I'm gonna say +3 to start with. And we'll kind of go back and look at this and see if we need to adjust them. Use microcontrollers are about the size of a pack of gum, but systems don't have the benefit of the full Python. Yeah, that's true. Putting any clipping logic in the base library. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what the computers can do for the size they are, if I'm honest about it. Like, it's pretty insane that this tiny little chip can interpret any Python code at all and execute stuff based on it, truthfully. Heading left, so I'll just do a 2 there, I think, and then right. Get the option that we want. What do I have on right here? I had 1. Right. And then I guess because these are now separated out from quargs, we have to pass them Also, well, what will PyCharm want to do with this? Best, really. Black will probably fix it anyway at some point, but... Oh, why did this, what? Oh, probably broken because of this. The default now, if you don't pass the padding, should hopefully work. But it is also worth noting we need to think about the case where... Do we? Think about the case where when the label was created, it had a small outline size, but then it gets updated and gets a bigger one? But maybe we don't because... I think we're going to need to. I'm pretty sure inside of here, we're going to need to change the paddings, basically, to be big enough to be whatever values we started with. Did this one grow, though? It certainly felt like it grew, right? I need to swap in the version that doesn't have so many prints. We don't get to see the background there. There's the background. So it still fits. I think the thing is that our defaults might actually be a little bit too big. And in our case, that's working in our favor. What's the outside? So it was outline size 2 at the beginning. Let me put the background color back. Yeah. Our outline box is much bigger than it needs to be at the beginning. But what side is it biggest on? I'm gonna actually, what I should have done a minute ago is stop this from changing for now. Let's just set it at the beginning and leave it for a second. Let me catch up here. Yeah, upwards trend, the M7 thing, they could have their own SBC starting from scratch. Guys like Jepler and other have already emulated some legacy systems to run CPM. Scott's working with what Scott's working on recently could lead to something pretty neat. Yeah, for sure. Seen Tiny Tape Out combined with Risk FPGA and some open IP stuff. Definitely future likelihood. Here's into that as well, FPGA. Icy Blue. Okay, yeah, so we have a lot of extra space actually. Like, we actually, maybe we only need outlines? What if these were all 0? That's pretty close, but I think the bottom is deceptive because we don't have any descenders. What was being our descender before? Deep, the P in deep. Okay, so bottom is basically at the limit on 0. And I kind of think that the default should have at least the 1 pixel there, truthfully. So I'm going to go bottom +1. Top and some of the sides. Well, the sides I think are honestly pretty good. It still looks like we don't have the 1. Now there's definitely pink underneath there. The sides I think are good. The top could honestly come down some, but I mean, am I really gonna subtract? I don't know. I don't necessarily think we need to. Are there any ascenders that go higher than these? Like, does the eye go higher with its dot or anything? I don't think so, right? I just scrolled through. No. I don't know. I think I'm inclined to leave the top instead of trying to shrink it down. I don't think we need to do that necessarily. So we'll leave the top, and then let's test out some different sizes and make sure this works. So we are on outline size of 2 right now. We should be able to go up to something much bigger and have it still end up fitting. Nice. So now there will always, if you leave it default, there will always be enough room to fit whatever outline size you selected. However, if you do start small and then try to go too big, then I think we're still going to run into the problem. But what we need to do is when we update the outline size, we need to also update the paddings. Yeah. Go inside of here. I really should have brought in the one from the repo before I started making changes. This is also where a bunch of our prints have come from. Oh well. Pretty much just gonna do not exactly the same exact thing, but pretty darn close to the same thing. Differences are going to be we don't have if statements. We want to be on the correct indentation level. And these are all going to be self dot, and they, I'm pretty sure, actually are underscores if I... That's now new outline size. At some point, it will be too big, and it will just be a block anyway, instead of outline. But I think auto reload tripped it again. Not sure why, but something must have wrote in a file. We slowed way down. We were able to see a frame there of like when it wasn't really done yet. But it eventually did finish, and yeah, you can see like the bigger our outline size is getting, the more kind of blocky this is getting, and eventually it will converge. Eventually the blue would actually just be the same rectangle block as the pink in this example. But, you know, ordinarily you'll use outlines that are much smaller. That way they're like thinner stroke traces around the text, obviously. It should go from 2 to 1, I think, yeah. Get a much cleaner look there with the lines. Okay, I think padding is all good, so let's get this merged into the repo again, and I'll push that up, and then we'll see what we're going to work on next. So, and just copy outlined label, I think. And the thing is, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we actually undid yesterday, which is now done again. This part we want to keep the new version of. So we could cut out this one. Okay. Also start cutting some of this stuff. This actually, so am I? I'm gonna keep that for now. That's like the root. This is basically the Python implementation of this. So you could, if you did not have bitmap-tools.blit, you could actually use this Python code here. It would achieve the same thing, but this one is way faster. And even still, kind of slow. Like when I set that thing to be huge, like 14, we still saw that it took a, you know, second or two to render. The next bit will be if we can take this logic right here, if we could put this for loop inside of a different bitmap tools function, then we will speed up a lot again. We'll get a much nicer, or I should just say another nice boost in speed. Because this is, I mean, it's a slow process. We are literally looping over every pixel in the bitmap. So, like, we're scanning through every single pixel. It's definitely gonna, it also depends on how big your bitmap is. Bigger bitmaps will take more time because there's more pixels, but. Black should have it fixed up, and then we have a bajillion pylint errors. Let's figure out what's up with these. But this one could get cut because it's never really gonna exist like this, truthfully. The only reason this worked was because of skip self-target, skip self-index, I mean. And that's never actually gonna exist in bitmap.blit. It's gonna be here, bitmap tools. When I initially put it in the core, I put it in bitmap because that's where blit was, but it got moved to bitmap tools to save space on some other devices. Adding too long. I mean, I don't know, black didn't cut it or anything. Like, why did not any of the formatters do anything about it? I'm like more of a pylint problem than a mu problem, if I'm honest about it. Missing class docstring? Yeah. Many arguments. That one's not getting fixed. We pretty much just need the number of arguments we need. It's like, we have to have these 4 because we have different defaults than our parent class. Have to have these 2 because they're integral to the functionality. We have to have this one because it's a positional argument that our parent needs. We have to have this one because Python. We have to have this one because the parent class has a whole boatload of other arguments that it can accept. Rerun this as well because I've been changing line numbers by stuff I've done. Still? What? No, that can't be true. For the sentences, that's like the most convenient place to cut it. It's because our indentions are so far, honestly. Specifying? How to spell specifying? Variable name E. Consider explicitly re-raising using raise. Oh. I do not recall ever seeing this syntax. Raise error from error? What is that all about, huh? I guess that will just keep the traceback going. Like when it says during that exception, then this other exception happened. Maybe it's like that thing. That's crazy. Computer operation at which two bitmap patterns are combined. Did not know that. Neat terminology. Yeah. Yep, I had not heard of that term either until it got added to. Actually, you know what? I think I heard of it because of Pygame. I think Pygame uses that function, but that was kind of like in the recesses of my memory. Really, when it got added to display.io bitmap was when I would say I was like consciously aware of it. Missing the doc strings. Or traceback should be before bitmap tools. I don't actually use traceback anymore. Third party from bitmap display.io should be before text. Unused import, I think I got rid of it already. Okay, now we're passing. We should have an example though, which we don't. The code I have is like got a lot of other stuff in it. Let's make an example. I'm actually just gonna copy the bitmap test one because we should be able to like honestly not have to change very much. So this is going to be white text on a black background. Let's add a ink border. Maybe, I think 2 is like a good default. I think 1, like this does look cleaner, but it's almost hard to see the color depending on what the background is, especially if we didn't have the pink there. The blue might be difficult to make out. So 2, I think, is pretty much the sweet spot for most labels. Whoa. Save this one off as like experiments. It's very small. Um, it looks way better. It looks way better on the actual display. Gotta look at the color going on, I think, but you kind of also have the problem that it's getting very blocky and difficult to and it doesn't really show off the functionality very well, basically. I'll be able to get a good focus here, actually. I don't know. Pink is not a good color for coming through here, I guess. A little bit. I don't know. Maybe if we would set the background to a different color or something? We could put the background image in, I guess. I don't know though. I think simple test should be simple test. Simple test should be only the literal bare bones, whatever is absolutely necessary. How's it going, Axel Magnus? Good morning. Let me see here. I haven't gotten traceback yet. I haven't gotten into traceback. Traceback's pretty cool. Did I gather something got rearranged in bitmap tools? I was scrounging the blit source, but only found array blit. Yes. Yeah. So it blit was originally inside of the bitmap object itself, and then my PR right here, 8136, that's currently open still, so not merged yet, is what moves it to bitmap tools. So yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that as well when I shared it. In order to run the code as it's written, you need this version of CircuitPython, which you have to build. If you have not ever built CircuitPython before and you are interested in testing it, if you let me know what device you have, I can try to build it for you as well. Working on request, I stumbled upon key error as an exception handler. That's the new thing. Stumbled upon key error as an exception handler. Is that a new thing added to a request? It's very helpful. But also, if you use it, it doesn't tell you the line of the error. I'm not sure. I don't think it's a new thing, but I'm not sure. Like if there's a key value error now, there's an error handler for it. Yeah, I don't know. It should. I mean, I would say it should I mean, you mentioned traceback module. The traceback module is what would ultimately allow you to also get the line numbers and everything to come through as well. I think our issue right now is that we're using a kind of big, or what I called sweet spot outline size, but we're actually then scaling it by 3. The thing is, our text is very small. Our text is very, very small, which makes our outline look massive. That looks pretty good. I think we're going to go with that, but I'm actually going to change white to be a different color. What should we use instead of white? Maybe pink? Maybe that's where we can work in the pink. Doesn't really look any different from the camera, but to the naked eye it does. Like if I get it just right, you can kind of see it there. Camera's a little bit washed out. It's kind of weird the way the shadow is like. Yeah, I think that makes a good example though. May want to be smaller. Thinking that just because it's possible somebody could be running this on not a iPortal, like maybe a Feather TFT, we would want to try to hopefully make sure it still fits on there if we can. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, pre-commit again. Docs. One thing that we don't have yet that we probably should is doc strings for our arguments that are different, which are these two. Like kind of a random color choice. I guess I made that though so that it will work with both white text and black text. Those I still stand by, even though it's like kind of arbitrary. They're just param. I go param. Goes param type. Let's say color is. It's multiple, right? So union tuple, is it? Or is it only a. Is it only a number? It'll only do a number. Oh, that works. So it's tuple or int. Need a name. Wait, no, I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? Type and then name. Ram type name. Outline. Color. The outline stroke as RGB tuple or hex. The outline size is only int. And everything else it should take from parent, which I hope will work, but don't know if it will. So I'm going to run that, and I'm going to go look at the built page, see what we end up with. Another thing that I always forget to do, which I actually just remembered that we'll need to do, is add the example to this. Like always forget to do, so that's actually cool that I remembered. This will be the outlined label, simple test using the outlined label to display text with a stroke outline. It'll include now that we've changed that, I'm actually just going to go build again before I even look, which of course doesn't work anymore. Underline too short. I think that's because you have to have this thing match the number of stuff above it for some reason. I think that's weird. Examples, including the outlined label, is now here. API reference, label base, app labels, link label. So we have outlined label. Need to also add it to API REST, I think. Yeah. Which means now that we're actually doing this, we may crash and burn spectacularly on the build. Nope, we actually made it. There we go. Outlined label, outlined label. A little weird. I don't know why it doesn't list these two here, right? What's up with that? Is that because they don't have inline types? Is it better to use this than tuple? One's the same way. Actually, that one's the same way as well. Okay, well. I don't know what's controlling that. Does that, am I crazy, or does that not, it gets filled in sometimes, right? A live doc? Is it always like that? Maybe it is always like that and I just never noticed. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there are some docs where it shows arguments there. There we go. This one does. Is it like that? I don't know. I think that's going to be a mystery for a different time and day, though. It'd be nice, honestly, if we could pull in the parent class, like... Maybe this one does. Be nice if this list would include all the parent ones without having to copy paste it, because like we could obviously just go to bitmap label, be a giant list of these here. We could take all of these, paste them into outlines label, but anytime one changes, it's now going to need to be changed in 2 files, which doesn't feel great. I don't know. I think we're going to leave that for a different time to try and solve it. Maybe, I don't know if it works this way, but maybe there's a way we can take these out of here and put them into another file and then like include them or whatever, like read them from that other file and have Sphinx put them in the right spot here. Then we could use it in 2 places, and there's only one root source of the text, so once you change it once, it's fixed everywhere. That'd be pretty convenient. Stroke is important when you're using it with background image, yeah, for sure. Otherwise, you can't really see the text so well. Line is only on the outside border of the text. Stroke also creates outline inside. Oh, interesting. So maybe we shouldn't be calling it stroke, I guess. Stroke also creates an outline inside the holes of the characters. So what you're creating is considered a stroke. Oh, I see. Outline would not do like the inside of the O, for instance. Following the like specific definition, it sounds like. Sounds like stroke doesn't necessarily follow, or our usage does not necessarily follow the specific definition for stroke either, though, if that's meant to be partially inside. Ours is not. I think it's all right for now, though. Okay, we did get a build. We did pass pre-commit. We have like minimal docs at least that exist. It would be nice if it could tell you the parent stuff. Honestly, it doesn't even mention that it like doesn't even like mention the parent at all, which is a little bit weird. It might be cool if it could at least say like, hey, this is a subclass of, and then it puts you 1 level up. There's probably a way to do that, but I don't know how syntax is, so leave it like this for now. We're gonna push to here. Okay. Be curious to see if this one passes the actions. I think I may actually wrap it up after that. Which is a little bit earlier than normal. I do usually go closer to 2 hours. We're only at 1.5 right now, but I have some other running around to do today. And then I'm going out later to hang out with my wife. I think that the next thing that I'll do related to this will be, I would like to make inside bitmap tools. I would like to make a new function called dilate, which is what I learned that the term for this is dilation in morphology. I don't really know what morphology means, but this is basically what we're doing. And if we make a function inside bitmap tools that does this, this will be essentially like what I was talking about before. This would basically be moving all of this logic right here into the core code. In particular, the most important part of that being these two for loops here, which are looping again over literally every pixel inside the bitmap. If we move those two loops to inside the core, inside bitmap tools, they should go way faster. But I do think that will be a little bit more, let's say, like hairy of an endeavor. It's gonna get a little crazy, I think, trying to do that, because it'll need to accept both, and it'll need to be calling the C side of this, and we'll need to figure out if we want to do anything about that, or how we want to handle it, or what. We need to probably figure out if there's a better name for stamp source as well. I am thinking of stamp source, like this thing is what I'm thinking of as the stamp source, or in this example, it's the circle, basically. But this doesn't actually call it that. That's just a name that I made up. Because I'm thinking of it like a rubber stamp that you just stamp on each pixel. They're not actually calling it that. What do they call it? Hey, Minkowski edition. I've seen that before. It's at OpenSCAD. They're calling it a structuring element? Yeah, they're calling it a structuring element. This page also does not use the term stamp at all. So we should probably change the terminology to be more aligned with this. So when we make it in bitmap tools, we would have a destination bitmap, and then we would have a structuring element bitmap. I don't quite follow this one, but it looks like, I guess, just maybe the opposite or something. Maybe one day we could implement more of these, though. Erosion. Opening. That's kind of nice for rounded corners. Once we would implement this in the core, I suspect it might not be too hard to add a few more of these. They're all kind of conceptually similar. But dilation is the only one I have a specific use case for, which is the outline text. Let me see here. Thought it was if it's a background fill in the characters, then it's a hybrid outline stroke. I gotcha. Background fill in the characters. Yeah, ours is not touching any of the foreground. Effectively, the whatever color the text itself is, we are not touching any of those pixels. Only ones outside of them. Well, or inside, like in the case of the O, because it's fully encased, but. Okay, did this end up passing? Yeah, nice. I think I'm not going to make the PR yet for it, because it does really heavily depend on this other one inside the core as well. And we already have this draft one, which is in line waiting on it, so I think it will be nice to maybe let some of those get worked through instead of just stacking them all up. So I will put that in at a later time. On a one unrelated note on the CircuitPython, it's a bit of back and forth to understand the difference between array blit and blit, but maybe you have a plan for that already. Thanks for the fun look over your shoulder today. Yeah, for sure. I am not best suited to explain the difference between array blit. To be truthful, I don't really know what array blit does. I think in my head, which who knows if that's correct or not, but I'll freely share it either way. In my head, I think the way it works is array blit does effectively the same thing as bitmap blit, but your source is not a bitmap. Instead, it's an array, and that array is actually, I guess, probably a two-dimensional array, and each cell within the array should contain an integer. That integer is going to be treated as the index of the color, because a bitmap in display.io world, the object called bitmap within display.io is effectively a two-dimensional array that holds ints. So if you have an actual two-dimensional array that holds ints, you can treat it a lot like a bitmap. So that's my guess at what it does, but I don't think I've ever used it. Array blit specifically. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Take one look at that, and I'll be heading out here. Let's see. Where is array blit? Inserts pixels from data, which is it's readable buffer, which covers a few different types, but it's I believe it's like an array type thing, like maybe byte array is one of them. I think there's a few others. Into the rectangle of width height pixels from with the upper left corner. Yeah, I think it's basically the same thing. It's just instead of that source thing being a bitmap, it is an array with ints in it, which, you know, I don't know, I would argue is basically pretty much what a bitmap is anyway. In display.io terms, like a bitmap functions the same for a lot of purposes as two-dimensional array with integers inside of it. So I think this is just providing you the function to be able to actually use a regular old array, whether you got it from NumPy or a sensor or whatever. You could have some array with data inside of it. This would allow you to load it into a bitmap to visualize it on the display. I think what I meant to say is whether the clip behavior is identical, but looking at the code, I think it might be doing the same thing. Ah, I see. That part I do not know the specifics of. I would hope that they are consistent with each other, but I do not know since I haven't used ArrayBlit. And I do think it would be, like we talked about before, I do think it'd be convenient if it did do the clipping for you. So if we do ever implement that into Blit, it would be nice to do it in both. If my understanding of it is correct also, like all of that hinges on my understanding actually being correct, which I have to play with it to probably understand if that's true for sure or not. So caveat there. I think I'll head out for now. So have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the good questions. Thanks for all the good comments and interaction over in the chat. Thanks again to the Twitch follower whom I did not happen to catch live when it happened, which was not DB Cooper. Thanks for the follow on Twitch over there. I will be back, probably should be back for a bit on Monday working on some stuff. I think I got some ESP32 Spy stuff in the pipeline to work on Monday, so I'll probably pop on at some point working on that. Otherwise, next time will be probably Friday for Deep Dive. You can always follow me over on Twitch if you want the notifications for that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope everyone has a good weekend and a good week and all that stuff. I will catch you later. Bye.